You know, they say that a broken clock is right twice a day, but maybe what we're seeing right now is people actually realizing that what we have been saying for the longest time is correct. We need to engage with young men who are distancing themselves from society, who are becoming reclusive, playing video games. We need to reach out, build community, help these young men who are falling through the cracks. And Jordan Peterson has talked about that. I certainly think the man is worthy of criticism in certain areas, and he would agree. That's why people like Jordan Peterson. That's why they like the intellectual dark web. Smart individuals who recognize their faults. This is an article from The Guardian that reads, after El Paso and Dayton, the left needs to reach out to men, not condemn them. A lot of young men seem to be lost and disenfranchised, but only the likes of Jordan Peterson are engaging with them. Dare I say it? They're making an excellent point about Jordan Peterson and what he's doing. They reference his book, and they reference it quite positively, it seems. I want to read through this and make sure I get the nuance and everything correct. But I have praised Jordan Peterson for pointing out some of these things. The video on my main channel, the default for new subscribers, I think, is talking about how Jordan Peterson is a solution to one of the problems in society. When he tells young men to find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it. When he says, clean your room before changing the world. What he's saying is, get yourself in order, better yourself, and then from there move out and you can do more. It's also a powerful point about how we can change the world if we all as individuals make positive changes. Again, I think Jordan Peterson has said some kooky things, and I think he'd be willing to agree, which is why I respect him. In an interview he did, I believe it was on Comedy Central, he was asked about his position on, forcing a baker or something to bake a cake, and he said, find yourself a new baker. And they said, what about the civil rights movement? And Jordan Peterson went, maybe I was wrong about that. And I was just like, wow. To hear someone say, maybe I was wrong, just right then and there, he thought about it and said, maybe I am wrong. Brilliant, respectable. And that's all I ask. Let's read this story. The Guardian writes, this is from Iman Amrani. Tremendous respect. I agree. We should reach out to these people, and the left should do this too. She writes, a horrific act of violence takes several innocent lives. A frantic live stream details the events. Terrifying mobile footage spreads rapidly online. Then come the tweets of condemnation from world leaders, followed by an onslaught of outrage split down partisan lines. The way that shootings or bombings or knife attacks are politicized depending on the backgrounds of the perpetrators and the victims shows how successful these acts are in deepening the divisions of society. And that is one of the intentions that the perpetrators share, no matter their race or politics. Spot on. Tougher gun laws would certainly help. I disagree, but let's read. But attackers will still use knives, lorries, or homemade explosives to hurt other people, if that's what they set out to do. And while President Trump's words have indisputably fanned the flames of hate towards marginalized minority groups, the anger and resentment he taps into existed long before he came along. Thank you. I have said Trump is not the cause, he's a symptom. I don't think Trump is as bad as they paint him out to be, but I'm absolutely okay with them saying they don't like what Trump says. I've criticized his attitude, his character, but I certainly don't think he is causing it. He is the result of people saying, I've had enough, the political correctness, the demonization. I spoke to so many young men in the campaign trail who said, I'm tired of being attacked. I'm tired of the PC. I'm tired of being scapegoated. And that's why they voted for the president. He was a kind of something different. The left needs to get off their high horse and recognize we all have to reach out to other people and not be as mean. And while I certainly respect this, Iman's, I hope I'm getting your name right, Iman, her opinions, I much more respect the willingness to have a conversation. If you want to sit in front of me and say, I think you're a bad person, I think you're wrong, I don't like the work you do, I'm listening. And I respect your opinion. Just don't be mean about it. I'm not perfect, I recognize that, but I try. And this deserves nothing but praise. So far, let's read on. Surely the question we need to be asking runs deeper, be it anti-Hispanic, anti-Muslim, anti-Western, anti-woman, anti-Black, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBTQ. Why are so many young men prone to being radicalized in this way? I know that discussions around men and masculinity are just as politically charged as discussions around terrorism, which makes this a difficult area to address. This is partially what led to me to make a Guardian video series on modern masculinity last year. As a journalist, I have covered stories in male-dominated spaces, from culture and sport to knife crime and terror. And I've noticed that conversations around the relationship between masculinity and violence were often dragged into a partisan debate where the left seemed to demonize men and the right claimed ownership over masculine identity. This discussion has become even more charged with the rise of the Me Too movement. And here it comes. Jordan Peterson, whose book 12 Rules for Life is an international bestseller, and whose videos on YouTube have amassed millions of views, remains a problematic figure due to some of his ideas. He has been accused of having an alt-right audience. It's not true. Although I was surprised when I went to an event of his in Birmingham to see quite a few men in the audience who described themselves as Jeremy Corbyn supporters, lefties, and even Marxists. Peterson's main tenet was that men and women need purpose and responsibility if they are to find meaning and direction in life. In a Fox News interview last year, Peterson was asked why young men were shooting up schools. Because they're nihilistic and desperate, he replied. Life can make you this way unless you have a purpose and a destiny. In a seemingly fractured world where organized religion is in decline, this point strikes me as an important one, especially when looking at the profiles of the men who are committing these horrific acts of violence. Men who have grown up in disrupted families and gone through the care of prison systems have been more prone to radicalization. Often they have little to no engagement with spirituality, politics, or religion earlier in life, but are drawn to a vision of the caliphate, posturing on isolated interpretations of the Quran to legitimize murders in the name of some higher cause. Or isolated white supremacists imagine a race war that paints them as brave heroes on a great mission. These are, of course, horrific extremes. But it's clear that these people feel lost and disillusioned. There's a push that when they feel lost and disillusioned, there's a push towards tribalism, finding belonging and purpose in a greater cause. So I'll say this. It is as close to praise as I think The Guardian can get, but pointing out something very true and important. Look, Jordan Peterson does not have an alt-right audience. This woman even points out lefties are listening to what Jordan Peterson has to say. Stop demonizing people. But you know what? It's the extremists who are threatened by Jordan Peterson and other people like him. People in whatever this centrist space is, they're threatened by the idea that we're willing to reach across an aisle and have a conversation with anyone. Now, admittedly, I find it harder to do with the mainstream left than it is with even the fringes of the far right. I think you can actually rescue people from the fringes of the far right by reaching out and having a conversation. And I have seen many comments from young people who have said they were falling into that space until they found Jordan Peterson. And in fact, the front page of the New York Times ran a hit piece claiming YouTube was radicalizing people, but in reality it showed that those who were watching right-wing content, who got exposed to the intellectual dark web, like Jordan Peterson and people like Dave Rubin, de-radicalized. I think that's why you see the extremists not like Jordan Peterson, because he is actually pulling away their base of support. He's shining a light. Look, I'm not here to blow smoke up this guy's ass and pretend like he's the best of the best, but I'm sick and tired of the demonization of a guy who's simply saying, take responsibility, live your life, find purpose. And I'm like, I agree. And more importantly, someone needs to figure out why. Look, I'll put it this way. I've gone through the stories. I feel young men are being demonized. They say young men are being radicalized. They're the problem. No. Sure, I understand what you're trying to say. But how about we write what she's writing? We need to reach out to people, invite them in, give them space, play some video games together, crack open a beer, and just get people back together again. So I'll go down a little bit. She says, in the Fox interview, Peterson had noted how the shooters influenced each other, saying, quote, it's like a psychological epidemic. These people keep track of each other, and there's a competitive element to it. Part of what drives them is motivation for notoriety. Notoriety is better than being ignored. Whatever people feel about Peterson's politics, there is undoubtedly something in what he is saying here. Thank you. People on the left tend to respond to him tribally rather than engaging with his ideas. Thank you. But there are times when this is surely counterproductive. Peterson isn't the first to explore these questions of purpose and meaning, but the way he packages them has made him accessible to a huge audience. In turn, this has allowed him to own the discussion around masculinity, which is not his intent. He's just trying to address the issue. His fan base goes beyond the tribes, like you noticed when you saw Marxists in the crowd listening to what he had to say. And this is the problem with how they even address Joe Rogan. Joe is a lefty. He's bordering on socialist. He wants UBI. But he will have a conversation and try and bring people back. And he will say to people's faces, hey man, you need to calm down. Respect to this crew of whatever it is. They say his biggest critics accuse him of being a pseudo-intellectual and dismiss him as an alt-right icon. Yet few on the left offer up well-developed ideas on the crisis of masculinity and the role of men. Certainly, there is no one who is speaking to lost and disenfranchised males with anything like his reach. It's not enough simply to call out the patriarchy, toxic masculinity, or misogyny. Addressing the perceived lack of purpose and meaning in these people's lives would be a first step in engaging the worrying number of disillusioned young men whose frustration, fear, and anger is currently being harnessed by hardliners, be they jihadist recruiters or Trump. It isn't about sympathy or excuses. It is about identifying patterns and breaking them and offering solutions. The only way we can do that is to come off the partisan political script and ask questions about the complex issues surrounding men. Until we do that, we'll be stuck in the same never-ending cycle. Iman Amrani is a Guardian multimedia journalist. This is an incredible article. I have tremendous respect for you, Iman, for writing this, and that needs to be said. I've seen this on the left a lot, and I think, look, of course, I'm going to say it feels more prevalent on the left to be knee-jerk and tribal. But I've seen anti-SJW types espousing opinions that I think are just untrue and poorly researched. And I have no problem calling it out. I think whatever this middle ground space is, which does include a lot of, anti-SJW types, which of course Jordan Peterson is one of them. It's about being opposed to tribalism. I think the left doesn't like the center, and they conflate the center with the alt-right, when in reality, Jordan Peterson, people like Sargon of Akkad, people like me, we're opposed to the identity politics and the tribalism for the most part. Certainly, none of us are perfect, and we're ripe for criticism, and it's respectable. This is an excellent article, because while I disagree with a lot of, how she frames things and views things, this is the conversation that we're trying to have. And Iman wrote an article, which is, I'm going to disagree here, but I appreciate you presenting your opinion and recognizing we need to bring people together. That's what needs to be happening. That's why I like Dave Rubin's show, right? That's why I like Joe Rogan's show. That's why I like what Jordan Peterson does. Let's have a conversation. The crazies on both sides, they should not be driving the conversation. Admittedly, I'm going to agree with Jordan Peterson on this one. The left needs to know where to draw that line. The right has done it. Conservatives have done it. The left, you need to start, because we got Reza Aslan saying craziness. We've got Sean King saying craziness. And this is logic and sanity from the left. And that's what we need to encourage. And I respect it tremendously. I don't care about your tribe. I don't care where you come from. Just draw the line, okay? Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up for you in a few moments, and I will see you shortly.